It's 7:15 p.m. on a Friday. I watched my wife of 8 years pour a $90 bottle of Cabernet for the man she'd been sleeping with for 6 months. They were sitting at my dining table, eating the garlic bread I had just warmed up, laughing at a joke I had just made. They were completely, blissfully unaware that in exactly 4 minutes, I was going to broadcast their entire affair on the 65-inch television right in the next room. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a punch. Instead, I picked up the TV remote, smiled at the man who had been destroying my marriage, and said, "Since we're all here, I thought we could watch some home movies." If you want to know what happened when I pressed play and showed them the digital prosecution I'd spent half a year building, keep watching. Because what came next made them both realize they hadn't just made a mistake. They had walked right into a meticulously designed trap. My name is Nathan. I'm 39 and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a senior software engineer. I spend my days looking at complex systems, identifying anomalies, isolating bugs, and fixing them. I deal in logic, data, and undeniable facts. That's important to understand, because it dictates exactly how I handled the total collapse of my personal life. My wife, Sarah, was a marketing director at a fast-paced downtown tech startup. We had a good life. A modest but beautiful 3-bedroom house in South Austin, a fenced yard, 2 cars in the garage. No kids. She wanted to secure her career first, and I supported her unconditionally. I worked from home 3 days a week. I was the stable foundation she could always rely on. Or so I thought. The unraveling didn't start with a lipstick stain on a collar or a mysterious midnight phone call. It started with subtle, almost invisible shifts. A new, incredibly expensive perfume she suddenly wore on a Tuesday. "Oh, it was just on sale at the mall," she said, not meeting my eyes. Then, the sudden obsession with the gym. Sarah hated cardio. Suddenly, she was doing 4 sessions a week, always during her extended lunch breaks. But the biggest red flag? The phone. For 7 years, her phone was just an object. Suddenly, it became an extension of her body. It went to the bathroom with her. It was always placed face down on the counter. The notifications were silenced. If I walked into the room while she was texting, the screen would instantly go dark. "Just putting out fires at work," she'd sigh. "Confidential client stuff. You know how it is." Alone, any of these things could be explained away. A new fitness kick, a stressful project. But I don't look at isolated incidents. I look at patterns. And the pattern was screaming at me. Now, most guys in my position would do something reckless. They'd snoop through the phone while she was sleeping. They'd hire a greasy private investigator. Or worse, they'd confront her with zero proof and watch her gaslight them into thinking they were crazy, insecure, and controlling. I didn't do any of that. Because if you confront a liar without undeniable data, you just teach them to hide their tracks better. I needed a system upgrade. "Hey, honey," I said one morning over coffee. "Crime rates in Austin are spiking. There have been some porch pirates in the neighborhood. I'm going to upgrade our home security system today. Better safe than sorry." She barely looked up from her phone. "Sure. Whatever makes you feel safe, babe." I didn't just install a doorbell camera. I hardwired an enterprise-grade surveillance network into our home. 8 discrete, high-definition cameras. 2 outside, covering the driveway and the backyard. 6 inside. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway, my home office, the garage, and the master bedroom. 1080p resolution. Night vision. Motion triggered. 24/7 continuous recording directly to a secure encrypted cloud server that only I had the administrative password to. Perfectly legal. My house, my name on the deed, my network. I didn't tell her about the indoor cameras. I just waited for the system to catch a bug. For the first 2 weeks, I felt like a paranoid fool. I watched hours of nothing. Sarah making smoothies, me pacing in my office on conference calls, the dog sleeping on the rug. I was actually starting to feel immense guilt for doubting her. Then came a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in my truck inside a downtown parking garage, just finishing up an on-site client meeting. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A push notification from the security app. Motion detected. Front driveway. 2:47 p.m. Sarah wasn't supposed to be home. She had told me that morning she was swamped with back-to-back strategy meetings until at least 6 p.m. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened the app. There was her car, pulling into our driveway. The passenger door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, maybe mid-30s, wearing a sharp tailored suit. He had this arrogant, confident stride, like he owned the concrete he was walking on. He didn't look around nervously. He just walked up to my front door like he lived there. My breath caught in my throat. My hands were shaking so violently, I almost dropped the phone. I switched the feed to the indoor hallway camera. There they were. They walked through the front door. He immediately grabbed her by the waist. She giggled, a sound I hadn't heard in months, and led him straight down the hall. I didn't need to switch to the bedroom camera, but I did, because I needed the truth to burn away any lingering doubt, any shred of hope that this was a misunderstanding. I watched my wife pull a stranger into the bed we had shared for 8 years. In that parking garage, surrounded by the smell of exhaust and damp concrete, the man I used to be died. Every instinct in my DNA screamed at me to put the truck in drive, speed home, kick the door off its hinges, and tear that guy apart. I wanted blood. I wanted chaos. I wanted to see the terror in her eyes. But I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, closed my eyes, and forced myself to breathe. If you go in there now, I told myself, it's an emotional crime of passion. She'll cry, she'll play the victim, she'll say it was a one-time mistake because you've been distant. The courts might even favor her. No, you don't just break the system. You document the failure, and you execute a flawless deletion. I didn't drive home. Instead, I drove to a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. I opened my laptop, connected to a VPN, and downloaded the footage. I saved it to an encrypted local drive, backed it up to a hidden cloud account, and created a master folder named Project Eviction. What followed was a 6-month descent into a psychological hell that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I didn't just catch her once. Over the next 180 days, I watched it happen 14 more times. 14 times. Always on days I was scheduled to be out for long periods. If I mentioned I had a full-day seminar in San Antonio, I'd drive 2 blocks away, park under the shade of an oak tree, and watch the notifications roll in. I became a ghost in my own marriage. I learned everything about him. His name was Marcus Webb, 34 years old, a regional sales director for a competing tech firm. I learned his patterns. After that first blatant driveway parking, he started parking a street over and walking to the house. He thought he was being stealthy. But watching the videos wasn't enough. A good engineer needs cross-reference data. I pulled our cell phone records. We were on a shared family plan. I exported the logs into an Excel spreadsheet. In 6 months, there were 1,247 text messages exchanged between her and Marcus's number. Often late at night, when she claimed she was reading in the spare room, I audited our joint credit card statements. This is where the knife twisted deepest. It wasn't just physical betrayal. It was financial parasitism. I found $4,300 in charges at boutique hotels downtown on days I was supposedly out of town. I found $2,100 in high-end restaurant bills on evenings she texted me she was working late and just eating a sad salad at her desk. She was using the money I helped earn to fund her double life. To seal the coffin, I accessed her car's GPS history through the dealership app. I mapped out every location, cross-referencing them with the hotel charges and the video timestamps. The spreadsheet was a masterpiece of devastation. Columns for dates, times, video file names, GPS coordinates, and dollar amounts stolen. It was airtight, unarguable, admissible in any court in the state of Texas. Do you know what it takes to look a woman in the eyes, kiss her forehead, and ask her how her day was, knowing exactly what she was doing in your bed 3 hours earlier? It takes a level of dissociation that permanently alters your brain chemistry. She was a phenomenal liar. She'd cook dinner, ask about my projects, and complain about her boss, all without missing a beat. And I would just smile, chew my food, and calculate the exact trajectory of her downfall. I didn't tell a single soul. Not my parents, not my best friend. Secrecy was my ultimate leverage. The perfect opportunity presented itself on a random Thursday. Sarah came home, radiating a bizarre, nervous energy. I was typing code at the kitchen island. "Hey," she said, leaning against the counter. "So, I have a tiny favor to ask." "Shoot," I said, not breaking eye contact with my monitor. "There's this guy from the broader marketing network, Marcus. He just transferred to Austin from Dallas. He doesn't really know anyone in the city yet, and I was thinking maybe it would be nice to have him over for dinner tomorrow night, just to be welcoming, show him some Texas hospitality." I stopped typing. The absolute sheer audacity of it. The sociopathic arrogance to bring her lover into my home, sit him at my table, and make me play the gracious host. She was testing her boundaries. She was testing my blindness. My heart rate didn't elevate. My voice was as smooth as glass. "Sure," I said. "Tomorrow night sounds great. I'd love to meet him." She beamed. "You're the best, babe. I'll make that garlic butter pasta you like." That night, while she slept soundly next to me, I made the final moves. I contacted Rebecca, a highly aggressive, no-nonsense divorce attorney I had vetted weeks prior. I sent her a secure link to the entire project eviction folder. "I need the papers drawn up by Monday," I emailed her. "Non-negotiable terms. I keep the house, my retirement, and my assets. She gets her car and whatever she can fit in it. Review the attached evidence. She won't fight back." Friday evening arrived. The house smelled of roasted garlic and expensive wine. Sarah had spent an hour doing her makeup. I helped set the table. 3 plates. 3 crystal glasses. "You seem in a really good mood," she noted, adjusting a napkin. "I am," I replied honestly. "I love seeing things come together." At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Sarah opened it. "Marcus, come on in." He stepped into the foyer. Up close, he smelled of expensive cologne. He wore a crisp, button-down shirt. He looked exactly like the man I'd watched ruin my life on a 5-inch smartphone screen. "Nathan, right?" he said, flashing a $1 million salesman's smile and extending a hand. "Nice to finally meet you. Sarah talks about you all the time." I took his hand. I gripped it just a fraction harder than normal, maintaining unblinking eye contact. "Does she? That's fascinating. Welcome to our home, Marcus. Make yourself comfortable." Dinner was a masterclass in psychological tension, at least on my end. Sarah served the food. Marcus poured the wine. We made small talk. He complimented the hardwood floors. He asked about my job. "Software engineering must be nice," Marcus chuckled, taking a bite of pasta. Working from home, no commute. I'm on the road a lot. I'd kill to just sit in my own house all day. It has its distinct advantages, I said, swirling my wine. You have total control over the environment. You get to see absolutely everything that happens here. Sarah's fork paused halfway to her mouth. A micro-expression of confusion flashed across her face. Marcus remained oblivious. Well, you guys have a beautiful setup, he said. I set my wine glass down. The metallic clink echoed in the sudden quiet of the room. Actually, Marcus, since you're so interested in the house, and since we're all here, I thought we could do something fun after dinner. Sarah looked at me. Like what? I thought we could watch some home movies. Before she could object, I stood up, walked into the living room, and picked up my laptop, which I had already connected via a hidden HDMI cable to the 65-inch flat screen. I grabbed the TV remote. Nathan, what are you doing? Sarah asked, her voice tight. She and Marcus had turned in their chairs to look at the screen. I upgraded the security system a few months ago, I said, my voice dropping any pretense of warmth. The resolution is incredible. I wanted to show Marcus the capabilities. I pressed play. The massive screen instantly illuminated with crystal clear 1080p footage. In the bottom right corner, a bright white timestamp read, Tuesday, March 14th, 2:47 p.m. On the screen, Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. Marcus stepped out. The dining room instantly plunged into a suffocating, absolute silence. The only sound was the audio from the video, the faint click of the front door opening. On screen, the camera angle cleanly switched to the hallway. There was Marcus, grabbing my wife's waist, kissing her neck as they walked out of frame. I paused the video. I turned around slowly. The blood had completely drained from Sarah's face. She looked like a ghost. Her hands were visibly trembling, making the wine glass vibrate against the wood table. Marcus was frozen, staring at the TV with his mouth slightly open, his arrogant facade shattering into a million pieces of sheer panic. Turn it off, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. Why? I asked, tilting my head. We're just getting to the good part. I clicked the remote. The screen switched from the video to a massive grid layout. 14 separate video thumbnails, each one time-stamped, each one showing the exact same routine. 14 times, I said, my voice echoing in the dead quiet room. 14 times you brought him into my house, into my bed. Sarah burst into tears. Real, panicked, hyperventilating tears. Nathan, please, oh my God, please. I can explain. It was a mistake. It meant nothing. A mistake is forgetting to pay the electric bill, Sarah, I interrupted, my tone icy. A mistake is not 1,247 text messages. I clicked the remote again. The screen switched to the Excel spreadsheet, zoomed in on the phone logs. A mistake is not $6,400 in hotel and restaurant charges on our joint credit card. I clicked again, showing the bank statements. I turned my gaze to Marcus, who was practically shrinking into his chair. Did you know she was using my money to buy you ribeyes and pay for your room at the Marriott, Marcus? Or did you just not care? Marcus swallowed hard. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. I actually laughed, a harsh, dry sound. You're sitting at my dining table, eating off my plates. You shook my hand 10 minutes ago. Don't insult my intelligence. Sarah was sobbing into her hands now. Please don't show anyone this. Please, Nathan, I'll do anything. It's already done, I said. This entire presentation, including the GPS logs and the financial fraud, was sent to my lawyer 2 hours ago. 3 encrypted backups exist on servers you can't touch. Tomorrow morning, a copy will be overnighted to the HR department of both of your companies. That was a bluff, but the terror in their eyes told me it worked perfectly. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. The humid Texas night air spilled in. "Get out," I said. Marcus didn't need to be told twice. He practically sprinted for the door, not even looking at Sarah. He muttered a pathetic, "I'm sorry," as he crossed the threshold. "You're not sorry," I told him as he passed. "You're just sorry you got caught." Sarah was still sitting there, weeping. "Where am I supposed to go?" she cried. "I don't care," I said, "but you have 5 minutes to pack a bag before I call the police and have you trespass from my property." "You can't do that! This is my house too!" she screamed, desperation turning into anger. "Check the deed, Sarah. I bought this place a year before we got married. Your name isn't on it. You have zero legal claim." She packed a single suitcase while I stood in the hallway, watching her. When she finally walked out the front door, she looked back at me, her makeup ruined, looking completely broken. I shut the door in her face and locked the deadbolt. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either. I just felt an overwhelming, profound sense of relief. The tumor had been excised. The next 48 hours were a masterstroke of execution. Saturday morning, a locksmith arrived and changed every lock on the property. I wiped her access from the security network. I called the bank, froze the joint accounts, and moved my assets into a solo account. By Monday, my lawyer, Rebecca, had served her with the divorce papers. Sarah hired a lawyer who tried to play hardball. He called Rebecca, demanding alimony and a payout for the emotional distress of the surveillance. Rebecca put him on speakerphone while I sat in her office. "My client is willing to make this ugly," her lawyer threatened. "Go ahead," Rebecca replied smoothly. "Texas is an at-fault state for divorce. We have irrefutable, time-stamped video evidence of adultery occurring in the marital home, alongside documented financial dissipation of marital assets to fund the affair. If your client contests this, Mr. Cross will enter the entire project eviction folder into public court records. Her career will be over, and the judge will grant us everything anyway." There was a long silence on the line. "We'll sign the papers as drafted," the lawyer mumbled. 60 days later, I was legally single. I kept the house, my 401k, my savings, and my dignity. She got her clothes, her car, and the humiliating reality of starting over from scratch. Marcus ghosted her the moment things got real. They didn't last a week. It's been over a year now. I sold that house. Too many ghosts, too many camera angles etched into my brain. I bought a sleek, modern condo downtown. A clean slate. I'm dating a woman named Rachel now. She's a teacher. She's kind, transparent, and her phone sits face up on the table when we eat. I don't check her location. I don't look for patterns. I'm learning to trust the system again. People online always ask me if I regret being so calculating, if I feel bad for humiliating them at that dinner. The answer is no. Society expects men to either explode in violent rage or quietly pack their bags and surrender half their net worth to a cheating spouse. I chose a third option. I chose data. I chose leverage. I chose myself. Revenge isn't about screaming and breaking things. True, devastating revenge is looking someone in the eye, smiling, and letting them realize that while they thought they were playing you, you were the one writing the code the whole time. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had your kindness mistaken for weakness, and if you believe in the power of undeniable proof, hit the like button. Comment below and tell me, what would you have done with that footage? Subscribe for more stories about surviving betrayal and taking your life back. Because sometimes, the only way to fix a corrupted system is to completely format the hard drive.